YouTube, how's it going? And welcome back to Kitchen Table Meta. So this is my review for the Villains expansion set that's coming out and later this month. So it comes out, I think, January 26th, which is the day before the Toledo 1K event. If you guys aren't familiar with that, all the information will be in my description below, and I definitely want you guys to check it out because it's going to be a fantastic event with tons of YouTubers. Tons of high-level players, just so much fun. There's going to be cool side events. There's going to be food there. It's just going to be such a terrific day of Dragon Ball. And it's honestly the reason why this game is so amazing is that we can go to these events and just kind of see people that we meet through this game and just talk and have such an amazing time. And this is going to be one of the events you don't want to miss. It's only a $25 entry. You get an awesome Jiren versus Ultra Instinct Goku like cloth mat. Play mat looks awesome. Plus you get booster packs for joining. And there's another like cloth play mat that looks awesome for top 8 as well. This really cool golden trophy with like Dragon Balls on top of it for the winner. So it's just gonna be great. It's just a fantastic event. And again, if you want to see Dragon Ball succeed, this is one of the best ways to do it. Is just go to these events, show Bandai that this game has people interested in it, and that we are just striving for looking for any kind of event we can go to. And it's just gonna be awesome, guys. Please come out and see me and come support this event. Okay, and so again, I'm going to go over these villain cards. They're super cool. Now, I do want to, before I start, I do want to kind of talk about the overall mechanic, which is a mechanic that is tied to almost every one of these villain cards, and it's a big mechanic going into the next expansion, or next block, I guess, is what it's called. Essentially what this does is it lets you essentially play cards for free as long as you have the overall number of cards in your drop area. And then if you do, you just take your entire drop area and move it into this new warp zone, and essentially out of play. It's similar to like Exile and Magic, or I think it's called the Shadow Realm in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm sorry, I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, so if I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But it's, you know, it's like kind of the banished zone or just out of play. It is its own zone, so things can interact with it possibly in the next set, but it's different from the drop zone itself. So you just take your drop zone, you move it out, put it in that warp zone, and then you can play these cards out of your hand for free. You can do that once a turn, so you can only play one card with Overwhelm a turn, and at the end of your turn, the card with Overwhelm is sent to the warp zone as well, and so it's essentially out of play as well. So you get like one shot with it or one attack with it for free, which is really neat. It's a cool mechanic. It's similar to Delve, I think, from Magic, if you're aware of that kind of ability, and it's just something that's fun. Players like to be able to get use out of the graveyard. It's a cool mechanic. There's also some really cool interactions with it. Like, for example, I was playing a Vegito deck that ran some of these cards, and I was like, holy crap, if I use this Overwhelm card, it'll take all my Gokus and Vegetas out of my deck, out of my drop area. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So it's really neat. It's not as straightforward as what you might think, and it's definitely going to be just a really cool mechanic to play with. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this card. The first one is Time Patrol Trunks, which is a 3-cost 15,000 attacker with Overwhelm 3. And so I'm going to read this one time so you guys kind of know what this is. It says Overwhelm 3. If you have at least 3 cards in your drop area, you can play this card by sending all cards in your drop area to the warp. At the end of that turn, send this card from the battle area to your warp, and then Overwhelm can be activated only once per turn. And then it has just this insane auto ability that says, when you play this card using Overwhelm, look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 of them and add it to your hand, then place the remaining cards on the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So this card is just just an insane card. In my opinion, this card is going to be in almost every deck. There's really no reason not to run this card. It's a 15,000 attacker, so it can put pressure on your opponent. It's a 0 + 5,000 combo card, so at worst case, you just play it out in combo with something. It also, when it comes to play with your Overwhelm, it lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand, and the other one you can choose up on the bottom or top of your deck, which is great in this game because if you attack with your leader and it's awakened, you can draw a card. And so you can do some really cool stuff where, you know, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, they're both awesome. So you're like, cool, I'll just take one, put the other one on the top, attack my leader, and then draw it. That's really cool. It also lets you set up your awakens as well. So if you, you know, essentially play out Trunks and you look at both top cards of your deck and they're both really bad, like let's say they're both like extra cards and you don't want those, you can just set them both at the bottom and then awaken with your leader and draw 2 new cards off the top. That's really cool. It just has so many cool, unique uses. One thing to remember though, this card is a Trunks Xeno. It's not a Trunks Future, and so you can't search it out with Bulma, but we'll see here later in the set, there are cards, you know, there is a card to help you search out this card. But otherwise, honestly, I can't expect This there ought to be a 2 of at least, maybe a 3 of in every single deck. It's just really, really good in almost any scenario. It's almost like your 0 plus 10,000 combo cards. It's like, it's just a staple. Like if you can only afford to buy one expansion, make sure that you buy the Villains expansion over the Heroes expansion, because this card is a staple. It will be in almost every deck. It's just, again, there's just no downside. It adds so much, deck thinning to your deck. It adds consistency to your deck. It's an attacker. It can be a combo piece. There's just no downside of this card. So with all that being said, I'm going to give this 3 stars and think that you should definitely, if you can only buy one set, at least buy one villain set to get 2 of this card, because it's going to be worth it. I'm telling you, you're going to at least play 2, I think, in almost any deck. Next up is the Masked Saiyan, the Mysterious Warrior. Now, this is the one that got previewed. Now, again, guys, I kind of probably should touch on this a little bit. These are all black cards. And so what black cards mean is they have no specified cost. These ones don't. There's a rumor that some might in the set 3. I don't know. I just know that these all have no specified cost. So this guy costs 5. That's all he costs. 5 of any energy. You don't have to have any ones available. So that is the new color that's being released in the next sets. And that's kind of their I don't know, their niche or whatever, is that they cost no specified energy to play them. Anyway, so he's a black card, 5 energy. He has Overwhelm 5, and so it works like the other ones. You have to have at least 5 cards in your drop area that you put him in the warp. But unlike the other Overwhelm cards, he actually costs 1 energy to play his effect. And so you have to at least pay 1 energy and then get rid of your drop zone to be able to do this. And his auto says, when you play this card using Overwhelm, choose any number of opponent's battle cards without blocker, for which the total cost adds up to 5 or less, and send them to their warp, which is super neat. He's also a 20,000 attacker with 1 plus 10,000 combo. Now, the really cool thing about this guy is that there's multiple things. There's 3 things I want to cover with this card and kind of explain why I think he's going to be a very strong card. Number 1, he doesn't like KO your cards. He essentially he moves them to the warp, and so obviously he won't be able to hit like indestructible cards, but I do believe that he'll be able to hit like Whis the Sacred Guard that says this card can't be KO'd by cards, but they can be moved to the warp. I think with this card, this is something we'll have to wait for the FAQ to see. Sorry, my hair is getting my but it's definitely very it's definitely a big upside with these cards. Second of all, since he moves those cards to the warp, your opponent can't get Overwhelm off of those cards themselves, and so they're not going to be able to get anything. Like you won't be able to like kill 3 of their guys, and the next turn they play Trunks out for free. It literally just moves them all to the warp. They're gone. They're no longer there. That's also very, very important. The last thing to remember about this card that I think is something that maybe people might not notice the first glance is that it does hit tokens. So that's actually a very important part of it too. So you can play this out. You can kill Gotenks and all the tokens as well, which is, again, very, very, very powerful. So again, it's also, when he comes out, he's just a strong threat. Like a 20,000 double striker is very, very good. Like that's on par at 4. If you look at our Kells and our Beerus's, like that's par for the course, right? That's right on curve. You want a 20,000 double striker with a good effect. He gets this, plus you can play him for free, and so he's good to play out. I'm sorry, he costs 5. I'm sorry. You overwhelm him for 5 with 1. So he's equal to those cards, but if you have to play him out for 5, he's a little bit weaker, but I honestly think he's still good. Like, he doesn't get his effect, but honestly, just a 5 cost 20,000 double striker is not the worst card to play out in a pinch. And so again, for all these reasons, I'm again going to give this guy 3-star. I think he's super fantastic. Just a great card. Next up, we have Supreme Kai of Time Continuity Keeper. This is a 2-cost, 0 plus 5,000 combo card with 10,000 power that has auto. When you play this card, choose up to 1 black battle card with an energy cost of 5 or less from your deck and send it to your warp and shuffle your deck. Then at the beginning of your next turn, if this card is in play in your battle area, add the card that was sent to your warp by this skill to your hand. And so this is really neat. This is a way to kind of search out these powerful black cards. And I think this again is going to be one of those staples. It's going to be one of those cards that's really going to be able to take advantage of the black cards. I don't think it's that powerful on its own. I think it's very, very kind of similar to Curiosity Goku, the 2-drop green one that draws you a card, but it can be in any deck. And honestly, a lot of decks kind of struggle with that 2-drop range, right? 2-drops where it's kind of, they either play like Objection or Goku or nothing, right? Or play 2 1-drops. And so I think this is going to be a great card that can work in any deck, and you can play this out, go get one of your powerful black cards like Trunks or the Masked Saiyan we just saw, and set up to get it next turn. Also, your opponent doesn't have very many ways to kill this card if you don't attack with it. You know, they have Goten, maybe if you're playing against Beerus, something like that, they might be able to kill it, but there's, or like Cell, but there's very few ways to kill this card. And honestly, if they do kind of overextend the kill this card, sometimes it's worth it, right? It's actually better than just getting the card you set aside. And so I think this card is going to be great. I think it doesn't stand that well on its own, but I do think it's a great card for the set coming up and for just this set as well. And for that reason, I'm going to give this 2 stars. I think it's a great card, and again, just going to be a staple moving into set 3. Just a great card. Next up, we have Time Ruler Toya. And this is a 4-cost 0 + 5,000 combo card with 10,000 power that has Overwhelm 4. And auto, when you play this card using Overwhelm, choose up to 1 opponent battle card with an energy cost 2 or less and gain control of it. Move the chosen card to your battle area in the same mode. And so I think that's a super neat ability. It's one of those abilities that like has me thinking so many different things you can use it for, right? It's like, oh my gosh, you can get opponents' Kabas, you can get their Gokus. You know, there's just so many cool things you can do. There's other things I think about. You know, there's also, you know, weird interactions. We don't know how they're going to work yet, so we have to wait again for the FAQ to kind of see how those interactions work. But it's just, you know, it's a new kind of mechanic, something we've seen in other card games we've never seen in our game, and that is the ability to take one of your opponent's cards. And I think there's just so many neat targets. There's so many funny things you can do with it. I've heard people talk about, you know what would be really neat if you use this card in hand destruction, like in the sideboard. And then if you're in a mirror match, you can steal your opponent's Broly, like 1-drop Brolys, and then evolve on top of them. And it's like, well, that's really cool. That's a good idea. And so there's just going to be so many neat uses with this card. I think that this card is really, really cool. I'm afraid it's not going to be quite powerful enough to see, you know, play in a wide range of decks. But I think this is probably going to be one of those cards that you'll see in a lot of sideboards. And I think is, again, just not quite a staple, but definitely going to be one of those cards that you're going to see from time to time, and is definitely worth the purchase. And so again, for that reason, I'm going to give this card 2 stars. I think it's very, very good. The big downsides of this card, though, is it's a 10,000 attacker for 4 with no other ability, and so you have to play this off of Overwhelm, or it's going to be a terrible card to play. However, it does have 0 + 5,000 combo power, so I guess at the worst case scenario, you can use it as a combo card. But again, if you don't Overwhelm this card's pretty lackluster, but I do think it has a neat enough interactions to probably warrant a 2-star, but we're just going to have to see what happens with the next set and with things coming up as well. Next up, we have Mira from the Darkness. This is a 4-cost 20,000. Is a 4-cost 0 + 5,000 combo power card with 20,000 power, Overwhelm 4, and it says when you play this card using Overwhelm, it gains critical for the duration of the turn. Now, I did do a kind of a pseudo review on these cards on Friday on my Twitch stream, and on that stream, I gave this card like a 3-star. I was like, this card's insane. It's a 4-cost critical guy that does something. This is really neat. It's awesome. It costs free. But something to remember though is this guy only gets critical when he comes in with Overwhelm, which is something I didn't realize at the start. I still think he's powerful. I still think he's a great addition to a lot of different decks. My thoughts is like, this guy's awesome in Champa. If you can play this guy out for free and just attack with a critical attack that draws you a card on his front side, that's great. Later in the game, when Champa awakens, he gives that card double strike, so you get a free double striking 20,000 attacker. That's awesome. So I think this guy does have uses. I think he's going to be seen more in aggressive decks than in mid-range decks or anything like that. I think those decks will probably favor like Trunks and the Masked Saiyan. But I think this guy's great. There's certain decks you're going to see tons of play with this guy. I think just the critical is just such a powerful keyword that I can't imagine this card not seeing play in some deck in some way. And for that reason, I'm going to give this guy 2 stars. Thinks he is fantastic, but just not as good as I originally thought, since he only gets critical for that turn when he played with Overwhelm, and he actually leaves play after he is played with Overwhelm. And so I think those downsides are probably enough to give him a 2-star. Next up, we have Majin Twin Shun Shun. This is a 2-cost 0 + 5,000 combo power card with 5,000 power and blocker. And it says when you play this card, if your leader card is green or yellow, place up to 2 cards from the top of your deck in the drop area. Now, this is just a really neat card that's, you know, essentially used with green and yellow leaders to kind of set up that Overwhelm mechanic. I don't think you want to use that card for this at all. I don't think the card is good enough as that. I mean, a 2-cost 5,000 blocker that does this is just, I don't think, good enough. I don't think blockers are that good in this game anyway. And I think the ones that are good have to do more than just have 5,000 power and do essentially, you know, take the top 2 cards on your deck and put it in. Now, it's possible that once we see more cards released in set 3, this becomes an amazing card, and there's going to be this awesome overwhelm strategy, you know, where you can get out like this crazy, you know, 40,000 attacker by turn 3 if you mill your, you know, drop area. You know, I don't know, but for right now, this card just doesn't seem good enough, and I feel like while the ability to put 2 cards into your drop area can be powerful when compared with overwhelm, it can also be just a huge downside, you know, when just if you get like both your Piccolos, or, well, I guess this is for green, so if you get like your Trunks or your 0-cost combo cards, you put them in the drop area, like that's actually going to be a lot worse than, you know, just waiting a couple more turns for your overwhelm skill. And so for that reason, I'm going to give Shun a 1-star, and just feel like, you know, she's not quite good enough. And then finally, we have Majin Twin Haru. This is a 2-cost 10,000 attacker with 0 plus 5,000 combo potential. The auto says when you play this card, if your leader card is red or blue, place up to 2 cards from the top of your deck in the drop area. When this card attacks, this card gets plus 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. Now, this is a twin, or is it a twin? Is that what it is? Majin Twin? Yeah, this is one of the twins that I think will see more play than the previous one, because I actually expect the previous one to see negative play, like not any play at all. But I do think this one could see play. Again, a lot of decks struggle in that 2-drop range. There's not a lot that you can do in that 2-drop range, and I think its ability is perfect for both red and blue. One of my decks I built with this card was a Champa deck. It's just fantastic. You can play 2, play it out, mill 2 cards off your off the top, which sometimes, you know, can be bad, but it also sets up your Trunks, it sets up your Miras for that Champa deck, which is great, and also it draws you a card after you attack with Champa's ability. And so I think it's just a great, it's a cool fit in that deck. I still don't think it's probably necessary in that deck, but it is an example of a deck that it can slide into, that deck had no really good 2-drops to begin with. The only good 2-drops Champa had was Hit, which were good, but just didn't really, you know, I feel like Hit is kind of like, it's too slow in the late game, and it doesn't really do anything for a 2-drop. But this card, again, slides perfectly in those type of decks. And I have a feeling that we're going to see this twin being played a lot more in those like aggressive type decks. They just want to mill the top of the deck as quickly as possible, and then get some of these powerful early threats out. And so for that reason, I'm going to give her 2-star and think that she is good. But again, it's really going to be reliant on what we see coming in set 3, and if aggressive decks can take advantage of this card, like I believe they will. All right, guys, so that's it for the villains review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope you guys, you know, like these cards. I'm actually really excited for these cards. I've seen a lot of people say the villain cards are kind of bad, and I actually disagree. After being able to play test with them a lot and kind of read them over a couple times, I actually think they're actually all pretty good cards, and we'll actually see a lot of play. In my opinion, if you can only afford, or you only want to buy, you know, one of these expansion sets, please get the villain set. The Trunks alone makes it a must-have, but there's also some other really great staples in this set, in this expansion set. Plus, it's important to remember that all these cards can be played in all the decks you currently have, and so it's just a good investment in that in regards in itself. So if you buy this set, you know, you're not going to get cards you can't play with. You can literally put them in any one of your decks, and so that's really neat. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this set review. If you have any questions, or if you saw something I missed, put them in the comments section. I'll do my best to get to them as soon as possible. Guys, thank you all so much for the amazing support. I just don't know what I'd do without you guys. You guys are just amazing. I love you guys all so much, and so thank you so much again for checking this review out, and I'll see you guys next time.